without, if we're not slaves, what is the role of a slave? The role of a slave is to worship, is to work, is to serve the master. And we're here to worship. We're here to serve our master. We're not here to relax. This reminds us of the story of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal when his son asked him, Abi, when will you relax? And he sees his father, he's working, he's teaching, he's studying. He's like, Dad, Abi, when will you relax? He says, when my right foot enters Jannah. When my right foot enters Jannah. And that is the mindset of a Muslim, that it's not about, we always, it's funny how most of us, we think about our goals, it's more like, oh, let's get to a point where we can relax now, right? Let's get to retirement so we can relax. Let's work, until a certain age, or earn the house, or get to that car, or get to that job, and then we relax. That's not our purpose. That's not our goal. That's not how we strive after something. We need goals that constantly drive us, and that's why it's linked to our happiness. And again, I can assure you, even if this is one of the powers of goals, that once you do achieve a goal, you always look for the second goal, because you feel unfulfilled, unhappy if you're just sitting there doing nothing. So that's the first reason why you need goals. The second reason why you need goals is to give you direction in life. Like I said earlier, you could just go through life aimlessly. Like I said in the verse, أَيَحْسَبُ الْإِنسَانُ يُتْرَكَ سُدًى, to be like Suda, like an aimless, old camel that has absolutely no purpose in life. That could be you. Or you could set goals, and that gives you direction. So you could be two things. You can either be like a car that is happy, that knows exactly where they're going, who they're picking up, how to get there, it knows where to go in life and knows how to move. Or it could be this sad, basically lousy car that has no idea where it's supposed to go, has no idea what's the purpose of, where am I driving to? It's like, it's unbelievable. If you get in a car and someone says to you, where are you going? I have no idea. You tell me. I don't know. Where are you going? And it becomes, an issue. And this is, of course, very, very important, especially when it comes to married couples, families, to have that direction. Where are we going? Where are we heading? Both in dunya and in akhirah. These are sort of questions that we should always and constantly ask ourselves. And because otherwise, literally, if we don't set directions for our life, someone or something else will, right? Life will hit us, things will occur to us, and that will push our direction. But if we set our own goals, set our own lifestyle, these are the directions that, help us move us forward. That's the second reason that, we have goals. The third reason why we should have goals is that goals constantly force us to improve. If you think about it, let's say you're this guy who hits, reach the highest, this peak of the mountain. Yeah, you made it, top of the mountain, awesome. Now what? Right? You have two options. You either go down the mountain, or you find another mountain, a bigger mountain. That's the only two options you have. So it's thinking about how can I move. Always goals help you to move up the mountain, move up to a new challenge, move up, improve yourself, constantly improve yourself. And this is, imagine, just like, for example, let's say you set a goal for yourself to be able to pray the 5 daily prayers on time. That's a goal. Now, let's say you achieve that. What's next for you? So, okay, I need to pray the sunnah prayers on time. Great. You achieve that. What's next for you? I'm going to pray tahajjud, for example. Great. What's next for you? I'm going to increase my tahajjud. Okay, great. What's next for you? You see, the goals constantly improve us, because if you don't set those goals, you say, Alhamdulillah, I pray 5 times a day, things are good, I'm not going to put a goal for myself, then that's it. You either stagnate or you either go down. So goals are important because it forces us to improve ourselves, again, whether in our spiritual sphere, whether our physical sphere, social sphere, as a family, as a community. Goals constantly helps us improve. So quick pop quiz. What are the 3 reasons for goals? Number 1, I want to hear you guys. Happiness. Number 2, direction. Number 3, all right, number 3 is constantly improving ourselves. Okay, now let's talk about why people don't have goals. The 3 biggest excuses. I've been doing this for a while, and I get this a lot through emails, through people talking to me and saying, Mohammed, I love this idea, have goals, set goals for yourself. But here's what. I'm going to give you 3 excuses people use, and tell me if this is something you guys face as well. Number 1, hey, everything is fine. It's like, dude, everything is fine now. I'm happy. Why should I set goals and direction? I'm cool. Everything's fine. I'm good in my career, happy with my family. Alhamdulillah, I'm a spiritual as well. Why should I set goals and trouble myself and strive harder? Things are cool now. Everything is fine. That's the number 1 excuse people use for not setting goals. The second excuse people use is, you know what? I never achieve goals. I've tried. I've put goals myself before. I've tried this before. All this talk about goal setting, resolutions, and, putting goals, and I just never achieve it. What's the point? Let me just forget about it. And that's the second excuse people use. Now, the third excuse, and to be honest, this is the most dangerous excuse out of all because it has religious connotations as well, is saying, brother, it's all written. Why should you have goals? Why should you even try to have goals? Okay, so I want to hear from you first. Before I tell you how to bust these excuses, I want to hear from you first. How can we answer these three excuses? If someone can just take on the mic and say, pick up one of the excuses and say, okay, number one, this is how we can tackle it. Let me tell me, I want to hear some voice, inshallah ta'ala. Bismillah. Anyone has any idea which out of these three excuses, which one you want to pick on? Say, actually, I have a rebuttal. If someone says to you, everything is fine, I don't need to have goals, what would you tell them? If with any of these excuses? Shout out.
Regarding the three,
yeah.
If you are talking about the faith, it is very clear also that it is the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, faith can be changed. So many examples are there. Suppose if you take the dua from a poorest and those persons, if they make a dua, whatever is written in your faith is likely to be changed.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khair. That's wonderful. Again, because we have, Allah Muhammad, there's a Imam al-Qayyim has a beautiful saying, says, we fight qadr with qadr. Saying that, even though this qadr is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala coming to your destiny is coming to you, but we fight qadr with qadr, also means with dua, with action. Beautiful. Jazakallah khair for sharing that. Anyone else has any of the other points? If you're saying, if someone puts his excuses for you, says, hey, I have this excuse that, one of these three, which one you pick up and what would you say to them? Just anyone. Come on, guys. I know it's 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock on a Friday evening, but just think about it.
Okay, number two.
Yeah.
Dropout is not good. See, if you fail, right, you have to look at it. Maybe Allah is going to offer something better in the future. So,
okay.
Dropout and a failure should not discourage.
Okay, so it's great examples. Like saying when you fail, that does not mean you should not set goals. It's how you're achieving those goals. So let's go through these excuses and just let's bust them one by one. So I'm going to bust these excuses once and for all. Inshallah ta'ala, you would not, anyone else who ever brings excuses to you, I hope none of you have these excuses, but anyone else who you hear who brings excuse, you can tell them, hey, listen, here's how we can bust it. Let's take the first one. Everything is fine, right? Let's say it's either your job or your health or your spirituality. Alhamdulillah, things are fine. Why should I worry? Imagine there's two brothers, right? There's Ahmad and Umar, right? Ahmad is, both of them are young, both of them, mashallah, very, physically fit. They're doing really well. But Ahmad is like, okay, he's a health freak, right? He eats healthy, he exercises daily, he's very conscious of his health. And Umar is like, yo, man, everything is fine. I mean, burger here, pizza there, fries there, and forget exercising for a few months. It's cool, And Umar is a chill guy. Umar is the guy who says everything is fine. If you fast forward 10, 20, 30 years from now, and assuming that both Ahmad and Umar continue exactly with the same lifestyle, what do you expect to happen? Anyone?
Umar gets fat.
Umar gets fat. There you go. Umar gets really, really fat. Fast forward 20, 30 years from now, things won't be fine. Things won't be fine. This is exactly the example I want to give you here. It says, sometimes things may be fine now, but it might not be fine 10, 20, 30 years from now. And this is exactly the concept in the Quran, which tells us about striving in this dunya for the sake of the hereafter. Working hard in this dunya. You might think things are fine in the dunya, right? If someone says, alhamdulillah, things are fine, but you're realizing, hold on, fast forward, not just this life, but fast forward beyond your life towards the akhirah. And then you realize, okay, things won't be fine if I continue like this. So everything is fine. Yes, everything may be fine now, but if you don't take consistent action, and not just one-offs, like Omar just said, okay, exercise once every 2 months. No, consistent action towards a healthier, better goals, whether spiritual, physical, social, any other goal. If you don't take consistent action, then things will not be fine later on. And this is exactly the example of course, if married couples, for example, married couples who don't invest time in themselves and think everything is fine, we're fine. But if they don't invest time, quality time, don't spend time with each other, 5, 10, 15 years ago, suddenly you realize the spouse became a stranger because we didn't spend quality time together, for example, very, very in a consistent way. So everything may be fine now, but if you don't take consistent action starting today and for the foreseeable future, if you don't have these goals to push you towards, having this, towards maybe everything being not fine later on, you will face consequences later. So there's been an experiment that was done in a university where, I think Stanford University, they brought these students into a campus and they basically said to the students, listen, we're going to take a photo of yourself and we're going to make this photo look really, really old. So we're going to show you an old version of themselves. I know you guys know there's an app for that these days where you can take a photo of yourself and it shows you a very, very old version of yourself. Okay. So what they did was they simulated an old version of the student and then they made the old version speak to the young version. So it's kind of freaky, right? So imagine you're sitting there at a lab and you're seeing an old version of yourself talking back at you. And what they did was they kind of spoke to them about different areas, health, retirement, savings, what's happening in the future in terms of relationships. And it just forces them to think about the future selves, to think about, now this is done in a very, kind of good dunya sense, meaning what's happened in this life, but you can take the same experiment and actually you can apply it in your own life. You can say to yourself, let me have a conversation with my future self, with myself saying, imagine if I have a discussion with my future self that says, okay, Mr. 80-year-old Mohammed Faris, for example, how are you doing health-wise? How are you doing spiritually? How are you doing in terms of your family relationships? How are you doing in terms of your children? And just really fast having that conversation based on where you are now. You're saying, if I continue like this, whether spiritually, physically, socially, if I continue like this for the next 10, 15 years, and just have that conversation, how will I be? Just imagine the young Umar having a discussion with the old fat Umar, saying, man, Umar, what happened to you? He's like, man, you didn't do anything. We just ate burgers all day long. That's why I was fat. So if you have that conversation with the future self, this is very powerful. This is, I recommend it especially to the youth. You might think that, I'm still young, I'm still healthy, I'm still strong, things that can be, I got time, but just fast forward and you realize how much things change just by time itself. So everything may be fine now, but if you don't take action towards goals to improve yourself, they will not be fine later. So that's the first excuse that hopefully is busted. The second excuse, it says, like I said, is I never achieve goals. This is very common. I never achieve goals. The second excuse is, okay, you have a choice now. You don't achieve goals, fine. Let's say you tried a goal, you failed. You tried to memorize Quran, you failed. You tried to lose weight, you failed, for example. You tried to, for example, build a masjid or do some kind of community project and it failed. Okay, let's say you had a goal and you failed. That happened. You have a choice. The first choice says, give up. Say, you know what, forget it. Give up, I'm not even gonna try this. The second choice says, keep trying. Now you might think, well, I did keep trying. But what if I change my style, change my methodology? For example, let's say memorizing Quran. You've tried memorizing Quran or learning Arabic, some kind of goal you really set for yourself. But every time you started, it failed. Then say, okay, it's not the goal itself. The goal is noble. The goal is useful. The goal's work is important. But maybe the way I achieve, maybe I need a teacher. Maybe I need to dedicate, instead of trying to memorize a whole page, I should memorize half a page, for example. Maybe I should, try to, sign up to this Arabic program that seems to work with other people. It's about testing and trying what works for you. So it's not the goal itself, it's the method, the way you achieved it. So this will, remove that excuse that, yeah, I've tried goals and they don't work for me. No, the goals do work, but the way you approach them, it could be in terms of your motivation for that, or it could be the ability, meaning your skills, you need to develop some skills in it, or it could be, having that trigger, something that drives you towards that goal. These are ways for you to think, how can I adjust myself so that I can actually achieve these goals? This is the second excuse that people use, and this is the second excuse buster, is there's nothing wrong with the goals themselves, but you need to think about how can I achieve these goals, how can I do them differently? Now, let's come to the third and most scary excuse. It's all written, right? And this has religious connotations and it can be very, very misunderstood. So I'm going to give you a simple equation, inshallah ta'ala, that I hope will help clarify this. As Muslims, we believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us free will. This is, in the Quran and Sunnah, He has given us the choice to choose between good and bad. The choice, inna hadaynahu sabila imma shakiran wa imma kafura, that we have guided mankind. It's either he'll be a grateful servant or he'll be a disbelieving servant. So you have the choice. You have the choice to choose. This is the amana that was given to mankind and jinn, except that none of the creations have it. So we have that free will, that choice. But secondly, there's something else that comes to play. There is Allah's laws in the universe. For example, my choice is I want to jump upwards. It won't work, right? Because Allah's law of gravity means when you jump, you'll fall down, right? So you might have a choice to, or you might have decided, you have this free will, I want to go that way, but there is certain physics you have to overcome, which is you're going to go fall down unless you use Allah's laws with comes with propulsion, all that stuff to move forward. So there is Allah's laws in the universe of how things are created that also control how things work. Thirdly, there's Allah's permission, Allah Himself allowing it to happen. So let me give you a very practical example. Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he was thrown into the fire, the free will of the people was to burn Ibrahim alayhi salam. That was their decision, right? They had a decision, free will, to take Ibrahim and throw him in the fire. That's the first thing. They exercised their free will. They made that choice. Allah's law, which is normal law, that you put anything in fire, it will burn. That's Allah's law, right? If you put your hand in fire, put anything in fire, it will burn. That's Allah's law. It's one of His universal laws on this earth, the way He created the universe. But then Allah's permission did not come for the fire to burn. In fact, Allah told the fire to be as peaceful and coolness upon Ibrahim, and hence the outcome was that Ibrahim alayhi salam was saved. So you see how these three elements work. One is, yes, you have a decision, you can choose. But then there is certain laws of physics, certain law of social laws, the way Allah created the balance in this universe that we all have to follow. But then there's also the third element, Allah's permission, Allah allowing that thing to happen. Another example, again, Ibrahim alayhi salam. He was given the choice to slaughter his son. And Ismail alayhi salam also was given the choice to accept to be slaughtered. And they both submitted. They both used their free will to say, oh Allah, we accept your decree. And Ibrahim said, I will slaughter my son. So that was their free will. They exercised their free will. They passed that test. Then came Allah's law, which is if you take a knife and you stick it onto somebody, it will cut. If you take any knife and you kill yourself, it will actually cut that person. But then Allah's permission, that He said did not allow the knife to cut Ismail alayhi salam, and He saved Ismail alayhi salam. Hence the outcome was Ismail alayhi salam was saved. Is this clear, guys? Is it making sense? And him nodding? Is he nodding? Okay, awesome. All right. Okay. So how would you use this? For example, let's say you want to wake up for Fajr, right? So free will says, I want to wake up for Fajr. That's your free will. Let me just share the screen quickly. So free will is, I want to wake up for Fajr. That's your free will. And then Allah's law now, but let's say you say, I'm going to sleep at 3 in the morning and I won't set an alarm and I just want to wake up for Fajr, right? You're not, your free will might be there. You might have the great intentions, but you're not, basically aligning yourself with the law, with your own biological law. The fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this biology, with your brain, your body, they need some time to sleep, need some time to rest, and at least it needs an alarm to alert it at the time you need to wake up. So that's like the way your biology works. You didn't align yourself to it. You just said, oh, I want to wake up Fajr, but I'll sleep 3 in the morning and I hope I wake up and I won't set an alarm, right? That is not taking the reason, that's not taking the asbab, right? But let's say you do that. Let's say you have a free will, right? I want to wake up for Fajr, and you set yourself that you sleep early and you set the alarm. Now you ask Allah's permission. This way you ask Allah for dua, Allah, help me wake up. Yes, I've set the alarm. Yes, I've done everything I could, but there's always the element of, I need Allah's permission for this to happen. So whenever you set any goals in life, you make the decisions, think, plan, decide, take action. You do the hard work. Align yourself with the laws of Allah, the way with the social laws, the biological laws, with the physical laws. Even for example, if with business, say you're trying to start a business, there's certain laws Allah put in this universe. For example, if you're honest in your business, Allah will put barakah in it. That's a law. Allah said, whoever, the Prophet ﷺ says, whoever was 2 traders, a buyer and a seller, when they meet and they're honest in their trade, Allah puts barakah in that trade. So there's barakah in that trade. So that's aligning yourself with a social law Allah has put, that if you're honest, Allah will bless that trade. Third is you always ask Allah's permission that your goal is achieved. So whenever you think about this equation, you'll overcome, inshallah ta'ala, this whole misunderstanding people have that, oh, it's all written, I don't have to do anything. No, you have to think and plan and be disciplined and take action. You have to align yourself with the laws of Allah, whether it's the social laws, the physical laws, the way things work, whether between people, the whole universe, and ask Allah's permission to achieve your goals. And that suddenly this qadar becomes something that's powerful. You're almost saying when something happens, when you achieve your goals, don't say it's from you. You say it's from Allah, because Allah allowed it to happen. So it completely changes the whole notion of it's all written. So these are 3 excuses people have. And I hope that we've busted these excuses. So no more saying everything is fine. No more saying, well, I never achieved goals. And no more saying it's all written, because these excuses are, hopefully not useful. Any questions so far before I move on? Any questions so far? Questions, comments, stories, feel free. Bismillah. Either you guys are really tired or really all right. I will continue. Inshallah, we'll keep the questions. Is there a question in the back? So question raised in the back? No? Okay, sorry. All right, we'll keep the questions going, inshallah. It was the end, inshallah. So let's move on now to the bit that you hopefully guys are here for, which is the practical reasons of how to set up your goals, inshallah. Bismillah. All right, how to set up the life goals. This is the bit that, whenever people think about goals, now again, it doesn't matter, people think about New Year's resolutions or Ramadan or Hajj or something, it doesn't matter which time of the year it is. You can do it anytime. And like I said before in the introduction, it doesn't matter how young or old you are, you're always in a state that you're always in a good time to set up goals and set up life goals for yourself. So I'm going to teach you a framework that I use in Practical Muslim called the goal setting pyramid. A lot of people, when they start this goal setting experience, they always go straight to goals, right? I want to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? They go straight to the goals. But they don't start off with the base. I'm going to teach you bit by bit how to build towards goals, how to make sure your goal is aligned to your purpose, to your vision, to your roles, to your values, and then come up with your goals. It's not about just having any set of random goals, but it's about aligning your goals to your purpose, to your vision, to your roles, to your values, to your goals. That's what's important. So the first thing about is the purpose. Now, this is again, very, very, most of us know this. When I ask, what is your living purpose? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create on this earth? We all know this verse, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I have not created mankind, the jinn and mankind, except to worship me. That is our ultimate purpose. That is our sort of the bedrock that all our goals should be relying on. If any of our goals does not hinge on this base, then that goes off limits. So for example, let's say you put a goal, I want to become the CEO of the biggest riba bank or casino in the world. That doesn't work because it's not aligned to your purpose. So think about the purpose as being the base. That's the starting point. What is my purpose? A quick funny story. There's one guy I know who used to teach a halaqah, and he was teaching kids this halaqah, and he asked the kids, what is our purpose in life? And, where does Allah tell us about our purpose in life? So this young kid raises his hand and says, I'm not sure what the verse is or what it says, but I know it's 51:56. I'm like, what's 51:56? He goes, that's the exact verse reference of this verse. Is chapter 51, verse 56. It's like, Inna lillahi inna raji'un. Nowadays, people teach even the verse itself forget, and it's 51:56. So be careful of just learning the numbers of the verses and just really understand the meaning and purpose behind it. So our living purpose, and this is something that we can all agree with, it's a starting point, that any goal we set our lives has to link to our purpose. Any goal. Now, a lot of us, we stop there, right? We all say, yes, our purpose is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But how can we really translate it to something practical to me or to you? What does that mean that I live my life in a way that is in worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Again, worship here does not just mean praying and fasting and charity and hajj. It is, doing every deed or words that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's encompassing your whole life, basically. So how can I make this big statement, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, that this big purpose that we all agree with as Muslims, how can we bring it down to what's my specific contribution, or my specific way of living that purpose? How can I live that purpose? There's a hadith of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, اعملوا فكلكم يسر لما خلق له. Work, all of you be made easy what you've been created for. For some people, it's super easy for them for example, to become teachers. For others, they'll pull their hair being a teacher. For some people, it's super easy for them to be programmers and do some awesome stuff in programming. Others, they can't do it. So everyone has their own specific skills, own specific characteristics that they can feed onto this ultimate purpose. And that's why I said the purpose is the starting point for our existence, for starting off with. The second step now, we understand our purpose. The second level, going a little bit up, is, okay, what's our vision? So what specifically is the message, the vision that I will live my life for, which is linked to my purpose? Now, there's a lot of discussions about visions. You can go to big retreats, pay thousands of dollars to set up, finding your vision and all that stuff. But inshallah, I'll give you a practical way of just setting up your vision. Something that is an experiment, which I want you to work with. This is part of your homework, inshallah ta'ala. The first thing is that you need to start with the end in mind. Start in the end in mind, meaning ask yourself, okay, what is my ultimate vision? The end in mind is, there's two ends. One, we have an end in our dunya and an end in our akhirah, and these two are connected. So what exactly is the end for me 10, 15, 20 years from now? This helps translate your vision. For example, let's say you and your family, what's your vision for your family 10, 15, 20 years from now? What's your vision in your spirituality? As a Muslim, what's your 10 to 15, 20 years from now? How would you be as a Muslim? What sort of ibadah will you do? What sort of Muslim would you want to be 10, 15, 20 years from now? What sort of person what sort of characteristics you want to develop 10, 15, 20 years from now? What sort of career or role in society you want to have 10, 15, 20 years from now? So starting with the end in mind and moving backwards. And we'll do an exercise about this, inshallah ta'ala, in a minute. So to help you understand, to help you figure this out more deeply, ask yourself 3 questions. What do I want to experience out of life? Again, these questions will fuel you to think about your vision more concretely. Something, maybe I'll do this or I'll do that. It's like, okay, what sort of experiences I want to get out of life? What sort of experiences do I want to experience starting a new masjid? Do I want to experience, taking care of orphans? Do I want to experience being, for example, running a business that is helping, a social business, for example? What experiences you want to get out of life? That helps you develop that vision. The second question you want to ask yourself is, how do I want to grow? Because again, like I said, if you don't have goals, if you don't set that vision, you will never grow. You'll just be who you are today. But if you push yourself, right? If you say, I want to, achieve a goal X or a vision X, it will force you to grow. So another way of asking is, how do I want to grow? Do I want to, for example, right now I'm a bit meek. I don't have leadership qualities. I don't have the confidence to handle maybe the big projects, stresses. Do I want to grow? How do I want to grow on a personal level? And again, this is linked to the experience, because you need experiences to help you grow. The third question is, ask yourself, how do I want to contribute back towards society, towards this planet? And this is something, unfortunately, as Muslims, we've really fallen behind. Even though we are Allah's Khalifa on this earth, even though we are the vicegerent, even though we are the best nations are taken off mankind, unfortunately, we do not fulfill our role, our leadership role as a nation in today's society, right? We don't fulfill it, whether it's environment, whether it's in social issues, we don't take that role. We don't contribute back. How many of us really are thinking about the environment and saying, I want to build a contributing role? My vision is to start a project or something that will really contribute towards the environment, for example, or for some kind of social issue, or towards some kind of economic injustice, for example. How many of us really think from that perspective? We always think about me, myself, and my family, maybe, as long as I get a job, as long as I'm praying, as long as I have my masjid in my place, I go Hajj, alhamdulillah, I don't want to go further. I want to push you guys to start thinking, no, can I think beyond that? I'm seeing a lot of issues around me. What can I do to contribute? How can I give back? That's also part of your vision. Once you start thinking of a vision from these 3 perspectives, the experiences you want to gain, the growth you want to develop, and then saying, what's my contribution? What's my mark on this planet, on this earth, whether it's to my ummah, to humanity? That will set your vision. That will help you, will push you towards a vision that is fulfilling for your dunya and for your akhirah. So this is second exercise, and this will take time. Don't expect overnight, wake up in the morning and say, wow, I have a vision now. It will take time. You'll need some time to think about it, to ponder about it. You might need, it will help to have some time to really ponder about it, but don't be caught up as, oh, I don't have a vision, I don't want to know where to start. start with. There's two ways to achieve a vision. You can start from bottom up, meaning you try different things, you try different projects, and something hits you. This is it. This is what I want to dedicate my life towards. Or up down, where you kind of think and plan and say, okay, this is what I want to do, and start from there. But whatever it is, do not wait. So if some kind of lightning bolt hits you and say, oh, now I know what my vision is. It takes time. You need to think about it, you need to ponder, you need to ask yourself, what experience do I want to get out of life? How do I want to grow? What do I want to contribute? Just by asking these questions constantly, again, not just one-off, not just in Ramadan or New Year's or anytime. It's constantly asking yourself these questions. That's how you're going to really, is going to drive you forward, inshallah ta'ala. So that's the second way of that's the second part of developing your goals. Again, if you set goals without having a vision, it's like you're not fulfilling, you might have goals, but they won't be linked to anything meaningful. But if you're setting goals that is linked to your vision, suddenly those goals become meaningful. And this is, again, will come more clear as we go through the evening. So your homework, guys. Your first homework out of many homeworks tonight. I know, I'm sorry, I know it's 6 o'clock, I know it's Friday, but really, seriously, your homework is to think about these questions. Just, if I were you, I would write down these 3 questions, and tonight before sleeping, answer whatever comes to your mind. Doesn't have to be awesome, doesn't have to be some life-changing experience. Just answer these questions. Maybe sit down with your spouse, maybe sit down with your children, maybe sit down with just yourself, and just write down these questions. What do I want to experience out of life? How do I want to grow? And what do I want to contribute towards the planet? Just ask yourself. Again, you might not have the answers. You might be confused of where to start, but just attempt it. And this will get your mind thinking about it, at least, inshallah ta'ala. So that's the second level. So we start ultimate purpose, that big purpose we all understand. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And then we start with the second level, which is the vision, and say, okay, our ultimate purpose is worshiping Allah. Our second purpose, our vision is something more specific to us. How do I want to grow? How do I want to contribute? So it's more like the vision should be aligned to the purpose. Now comes the roles, right? And this is where it gets really, really interesting. Because a lot of us, when we think about our vision, we think about our vision, our career, our community, but we forget that we have different roles in life. So for example, there are 2 types of roles. There is a mandated role. For example, being a Muslim is a mandated role, right? You don't want to give that up. Being a father or a mother is a mandated role. Like you can't just say, even if you ignore your kids or drop your kids somewhere, you're still the father and the mother. You can't just hide. You're biologically your father and mother. Son and daughter, even if you neglect your parents, you're still the son and daughter. So these roles are called mandated roles. Sibling, brother and sister, it doesn't matter if you hate your sister or brother, you are still the brother and sister. So these are mandated roles, the roles that you specifically have been assigned with. And this is your roles in your life. Now, there are some elective roles. Elective roles, for example, being an employee, you could quit your job, right? Being a friend, you can defriend your friend. Not nice, but you can defriend them, right? Unlike them on Facebook. You can be a boss, but you can say, I don't want to be a boss anymore. I want to be a team player. You can be a student. You can say, I don't want to be a student. These are elective roles. These are roles which you choose to be. You can opt in or opt out. Okay, so I have a trick question for you guys. Husband and wife, mandated or elective? Who thinks it's mandated? A lot of times I ask these questions in seminars, and like all the guys says mandated. No, sorry, the guys say elective, and the women say mandated. So it's quite fun when a bigger crowd. Okay, that's I'll leave that to you. I'm going to answer that question, but it's something to think about. So what I want you to do on a piece of paper right now, if you may, inshallah ta'ala, draw on the y-axis just this thing. This line says performance. Okay. Draw on the y-axis, this thing says performance. And the x-axis, draw the roles you have. So if you just, on a piece of paper, just write, put a graph, like a graph. So on the y-axis, on the vertical line, put your performance. On the horizontal line, put down your roles. What I mean by this saying, for example, what roles do you play in life? For example, you could be a mother, you could be a wife, you are a daughter, you are a Muslimah, you are a businesswoman, you are an employee, all the roles. You are a neighbor, you are a father, you are a team member. So all the different roles you play. So you just start by just putting down your roles on a piece of paper. And what I want you to do is to give yourself a grade from 0 to 100, just like draw a graph, a bar graph. How well am I performing in my roles? How well am I performing on roles? For example, ask yourself, how well am I doing as a father? how well am I doing as a mother? These are very subjective. This is not scientific. Just you yourself giving yourself a score from 0 to 100. No one's going to see this. You don't have to show this to your wife or to your kids or nothing. You just have to do it yourself. Ask yourself, how well am I doing in each of these roles? Father, mother, wife, daughter, employee, neighbor, team member, any role you, uncle, nephew, niece, son-in-law, daughter-in-law, I don't know, community member, board member for masjid, any roles you play, how well am I doing from 0 to 100? If you just spend like 1 minute doing the Ta'ala. Just 1 minute doing the Ta'ala will be really helpful. Okay. Are you guys done or still doing it? If you're done, just raise your hand. If you're done, if you're not done, just okay. Almost there. Just again, just give yourself a score 0 to 100. Just how well you think you're doing in each of your roles. Okay, so I am going to, for the sake of time, I'm going to continue. So what I want you to do now, so now that you understand that, okay, I now know, roughly how well I'm performing. Now, again, this is not to judge yourself, but just to give an idea of, just you almost have an intuitive sense. You can say, you know what, I might be really cool, an awesome employee, but maybe as a dad, I need to work on myself. Or maybe as a son, I have some issues. Or maybe as a mother, maybe I'm maybe overdoing it, not taking care of myself, for example, or my Islam, for example. So think of the different roles and how well I'm performing in them. And then this is the critical question. What does Islam say my minimum performance level should be? And this is where the critical question comes in, because all of us have different performance levels, right? But there's a certain level that Islam expects us to have, because we'll be questioned about these roles and their judgment, right? You can be an awesome employee, but if you're a neglectful father or mother, you'll be questioned about that. You can be an awesome, parent, but if you don't take care, for example, of your relatives and don't reach out to your relatives, Salatul Rahim, for example, reaching out, you will be questioned about that. You might be an awesome community member, but if you don't, reach out to your neighbors, which is, again, Islam encourages us to take care of our neighbors, we'll be questioned about that. So it kind of forces you to think, what's the minimum performance level that Islam requires me to have? Now, the interesting thing about this is that our performance levels keeps changing depending on the context. For example, let's say you are a son or daughter, and alhamdulillah, your parents are young and healthy, for example. Now, their performance level when they're young and healthy is different. For example, if your parents are very old and they need your immediate attention, and they need, for example, they're hospitalized and they need you there, for example. So the performance level that Islam requires you to have when they're healthy compared to when they're old and sick is completely different. So it changes depending on the context. So this is, again, why this exercise is very, very important. Because now, as you're setting your goals, don't forget the different roles you have. You might say, I want to go this way, but you already, hold on, you have your parents to take care of. You have your kid is, need to do this about it. You need to think about, how will my roles be aligned? How will my goal be aligned with my roles? Do you see what I mean? So it might seem like whenever we think about goals, we kind of tend to be selfish about it. We think, oh, I want to achieve this, I want to achieve this, I want to achieve that. ask yourself, how will these goals align with the roles that I have, the responsibilities, the things I'll be questioned about on the day of judgment if I do not fulfill them? Now, the question people I normally ask me is, okay, how do I know what this minimum performance level is? How do I know what Islam requires me specifically to do? This is where seeking knowledge is important. And like I said, every person is different because it depends on the context, where you live, how you live, the financial, it has so many different contexts. We could spend a whole sort of another workshop on minimum performance levels and going through hadith and verses and seeing what Allah asks us to do in each of our roles. But the important thing for the message I want to push here is that don't set goals for yourself unless you see how these goals align with your roles. And this helps you sometimes bring your family on board. Sometimes you might have a goal to do something, but are your parents on board with it, for example? Are your families, your wife and kids on board with it? If, how can some elective roles you have to give up? Sometimes we set goals for ourselves, but then we're still a board member of like 15 organizations and we want to do this. Well, maybe we have to give up some elective roles so we can achieve the goal that we really want to achieve in life. So this role idea is to think about the different aspects and responsibilities we have and to remember that we will be questioned about it. Now, the other thing about this point is that if your performance is above the minimum level required by Islam, that's called ihsan from you. You're doing ihsan from yourself. But if it's below that minimum performance level, then you are perhaps falling into sin, right? So you might, if let's say a lot of us, maybe let's say at work, are you fulfilling the contract that you signed up for and really living up to that contract? The minimum performance level is the contract you signed with your boss, for example. If you're doing beyond that, that's ihsan. If you're doing below that, your boss might be still happy with you, but you're not fulfilling the contract. You're achieving less than the minimum performance level as you set for yourself in your own contract. So this is a whole discussion about what exactly minimum performance level is for each of us. But it's very, 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 very important that you do not set your goals unless you're really conscious of how these goals affect all my different roles. For example, you might say, I want to go and give da'wah, for example. I want to spend, 3 months away and work so hard in some, in a country in Africa and do da'wah, for example. But hold on, what about your family? What sort of response, how are you going to take care of that responsibility when you go out, for example? So these sort of questions you also should ask yourself as you set your goals. So is it clear so far, guys? Are you guys clear? Awesome. Okay. Alrighty. So next one. So we have the purpose. We have the vision. Oh, sorry. So we have the purpose. We have the vision. We have the role. So we understand what the purpose is, our ultimate purpose is. We understand that we have a message, a vision, something experiences, growth, things we want to contribute that really defines us. And then we need to always think, whenever we set our goals, the different roles we play in life. Okay. The fourth story is the values. What values do you want to live by? Values are like the themes or principles you live by. For example, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq was known to be as-Siddiq, the one who always connects to the truth. To the point that even when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ passed away, he still was connected to the haqq, to the truth, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always living. So that helped him. That was his value. That was like his theme. Umar al-Faruq, Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu used to be known as for justice, adl, al-Faruq. He used to separate, the haqq from batil. So that's another value that, a theme, a principle. What do you live by? So there are so many principles you could live by, and these values helps you define your goals. For example, one of the goals that I personally value is independence, right? I like to do things on my own. Now, if I like independence, then if you tell me, if I set a goal that I want to work inside a company or in a corporate job, that goal will not fit with my value, with my theme, because my character, the way I personally operate, is I value independence. I like to run, a business. I like to run my own sort of, projects. I do not want to work for somebody else. That's the value. And somebody else might say, no, actually, I love teamwork, or I love collaboration, or I like spending time with people, for example. So I cannot work on my own, for example. So each one of us has a value, a theme, a principle. Some people, it's perfection, right? You want to get everything right. So these people, if they value perfection, maybe the goal should be linked to that value. Some people love to sacrifice, right? I know there's a very famous story of a Kuwaiti or a da'iya. His name is Abdurrahman al-Samit, Dr. Abdurrahman al-Samit. He, took his man, he's a doctor, and he's a very wealthy person. And he took his wife and his 4 kids, and they went and spent literally years doing da'wah in Africa. So imagine in Africa. So in fact, he passed away about 2-3 years ago. May Allah have mercy on him. And, literally villages after villages converted to Islam because of his sacrifice. So he valued that. That was his theme, his principle. I want to sacrifice the riches I have for the purpose of da'wah. What's your value? Every single person has his own value. You could be a creative person. You could be a spiritual person. You could be something that defines you. So the way I want you to figure this out is ask yourself this last question. Imagine that, may Allah all give you a long life, but let's say, you drop dead and somebody says, SubhanAllah, that person was such a blank person. What will be in that blank? So imagine, someone says, oh, SubhanAllah, Fatima was such a blank person. Or Muhammad was such a blank person. What's in that blank? That will define the things that you value. So right now, write down what's one or two words that you read, that if you hear, like, oh, that's me. For example, some people is being a caring person. That's them. Someone else is being as a creative person or independent person, or I know I like the idea that I am more of let's say I always stick to the truth, or I'm a very principled person. What values or themes that you are known for? It's like you, it's your characteristic. The thing that if someone says, let's say if someone says you are not a caring person, you could be offended, right? If someone tells me you're not independent, I'll be very offended. It's like it's value. It's something I really value. So what is that blank? Just fill in that blank for me, please. Just write down what's that one word or two words that describe your value. Just 30 seconds. Okay, great. So one way also to find out your values is to ask those around you. Ask your family members, ask your spouse, right? They'll tell you, if these are the really values you live up to. Ask a friend, what are the values? So again, now you hope you see the big picture now. You have your purpose, you know exactly you're here for, you're here to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's clear cut in your head. You know exactly what experience is, what's growth, how you want to contribute to planet, and that's summarizing your vision, what you want to achieve in this life. And you know exactly your roles and responsibilities and how to basically, what you're going to do to manage them. You understand the values that drive you, your principles, the themes. Now you set your goals. Now you set your short-term, long-term goals. You see, if you start straight to the goals, oh, I want to do X, Y, Z, and you don't think about your purpose, you don't think about your vision, you don't think about your roles, you don't think about the values, these goals will become meaningless or you'll give up very soon. But if you say, no, my value is, this, and I know that I have these responsibilities, and I understand my vision, and I understand my ultimate purpose, and this goal that I'm setting is aligned to all of this, now you have a very powerful life goal, something that drives you, and you can put short-term, long-term, and now you kind of live this life which you're driven. You know exactly why you're here and what you have to do to achieve it. So suddenly goal setting doesn't become this pie in the sky idea, or doesn't become this random goal you set for yourself. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to memorize Quran. I want to learn Arabic, just random goals. But no, these are now aligned to a specific purpose, vision, balance across my roles, to my values, and then to achieve that goals. So this is a very, very important. Whenever you think about goals, this is the framework I want you to think about. This should be your line of thinking, not just, okay, what goals do I have in life? Oh, let me put some spiritual goals, then put some physical goals. No, think about these stepping stones, inshallah ta'ala. So now we're actually going to put some goals together. There's something called the Productive Muslim Ultimate Goal Planner. This is a goal planner that we developed at productivemuslim.com. It's available for free on the website. You can download anytime. And just to double check with the organizers, everyone has a copy of it? Yeah. Awesome. All right. Okay. So the way I want to do this is we're going to spend literally just a minute or two just to fill one line from this goal. And this is just a starting point to get you started. And then inshallah I'll move forward. So just to give you an idea how this works, I'll put this quickly. All right. Let me put the annotation one. Okay. Ready? All right. Okay. So the way this works is that, sorry, you lost it there. Let me try that again. Okay. Okay. The way this works is that you have 6 categories. You have Islam, personal development, family, work, community, and ummah. These are 6 areas that I want you to think about. Now, what you're going to do for each of these, and for this today's session, I want you to choose one of them only. You ask yourself, okay, let's say for my Islam, what would my Islam look like, or how would I like it to look like 20 years from now? Based on my roles, my values, my purpose, my vision. But let's say if you don't have those pieces, don't worry about it. But just for now, what is my Islam look like 20 years from now? How will it be as a worshiper of Allah, as an abd of Allah, as a worshiper, slave of Allah? What would that look like 20 years from now? And don't tell me it's going to be exactly the way it is. No matter how good you are today, you can always improve, because our role model is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we know we need to strive to emulate his character. So there's always more you could do. So don't kid yourself, oh, alhamdulillah, I'm fine now, I'm praying and things are good. No. Ask, what would Islam look like 20 years from now? Same thing with personal development. What character, what personal development, what sort of, whether soft skills should I have? Let's say right now I get angry very easily, or I get envious very easily, or I've always get this depression moves very quickly. What sort of personal development or growth I have for myself 5 years from now, or 10 years, or 20 years from now? Family, how will my family look like 20 years from now? And just think about our kids and how when they grow old and they get married and have kids, and how will that all work? And we'll talk more about it. Well, of course, you might say I have no control over them. I don't know what their goals are, but at least you start thinking about it. What sort of goals that will set for yourself? Work, and a big area for life. Where will I be 5 years from now? Where will I be 10 years from now? If you expect to be exact same position, you're kidding yourself. What will I do 20 years from now? Now you might think, man, 20 years, like a lot, okay? If it is a lot, don't worry, go 5 years or 10 years, go with something that's reasonable. But if you can't push yourself further, I would suggest you do, because then you think, okay, I'll be 50 years old or 60 years old, and what will that look like? And just think, again, it's not about predicting the future. It's about just driving yourself to say like I said, everything may be fine now, but fast forward and where you want to see, and where would you like to see if inshallah gives you the long life. The powerful thing about this is, let's say you set for yourself a goal. For example, let's say you want to memorize Quran. You say 5 years from now in my Islam category, I want to memorize Quran, for example. And let's say after 2 years, may Allah give you long life, you pass away. The fact that you set that goal 5 years from now and you are striving towards that goal, you will be rewarded for the intention of wanting to memorize the Quran. So it's powerful, just by you having that goal set for yourself 5 years. If you didn't have that goal, if you just lived your life and things are normal and you didn't put a goal to improve your Islam, then you'll miss out on that reward. So ask yourself, what goal will I set myself for and move toward? Let's say, for example, community. What goal do I want to achieve for my community 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Let's say you want to build a masjid, or build an orphanage, or build a school, or build a high, or do something completely new that will be beneficial for not just for Muslims but also non-Muslims who are in my society. What would I do? What's that project? And let's say you start that project, but subhanallah, for some reason you don't finish it, or you pass away, or something happens. Again, the intention, the fact that you were striving towards it, the fact that you thought about it. If you didn't have this goal planner, if you didn't force yourself to think about these goals, nothing would happen. Literally, nothing would happen. You would lead basically a meaningless, directionless life. And that's not what I hope you guys want to achieve. You want to achieve a meaningful, a life that's driven, that you have a clear direction. And the last one, ummah, humanity. What would you like to contribute? Now, again, you might think, man, ummah is so huge. What can I do for the ummah? Again, start small. Start small. What can you do? Is it even simple thing as writing or contributing or teaching something? What would you do for the ummah 6 months from now, 1 year from 5 to 10 years from now? So this goal planner is forcing you to start thinking ahead and really pushing yourself in each of the, and not normally put goals for work or family maybe, but I'm pushing you across all these areas, because that's part of being Muslim. It's not just about work or just family, but it's about our personal development, our growth, our community, our ummah, what we do for society. That's part of being a productive Muslim, what we define. So you sort of think ahead 10, 15 years from now. Then you ask yourself, okay, now that I have this 10, 20 years from now goal, how can I translate it back towards my date goal? We'll talk more about that later. But then the last column is called the Akhirah column. And the Akhirah column is say, how will these goals look like from an akhirah perspective? I might say, for example, you might say, like I said before, if you say, I want to become the CEO of the biggest, casino or something like that, from an akhirah perspective, that's not a good idea. So ask yourself, all of my goals, how will that look like from an akhirah perspective? That's what I want you to think about as well, as the last column, as the last reminder. So I'm going to ask you, and I'll do this with you also live. I'll be filling my goal planner right now live on the screen, and you also will be filling your goal planners. And then we'll take from this. Just fill this one row. Choose one of the categories, whether it is Islam, whether it is personal development, whether it's family, work, community, whatever it is. Ask yourself, what will that look like? And 10, 20 years from now, and just write anything that comes to your mind. Again, it's not about right or wrong. It's not about freaking yourself out. It's just about, okay, what would that look like? I want to push you a bit to think about those goals. So let's start from now. Just again, for 1-2 minutes, just write down. I'll be filling my goal planner live for you here as well, so you can see me working as well, inshallah. So let's get started. Okay. Okay, how are you guys doing? How are you guys finding it? Was it okay? All right, so I was going to walk you through what I've done so far. So again, I was literally, this is on the goal. Just started thinking about this. So I'm not sure if you can see my screen. I'm going to share your screen right now. Okay. So I'm just, hold on. Yeah, okay. So basically I said, okay, what exactly are my personal development goals, work goals, community goals? So again, I just put this in there, just give you examples. These examples, again, I've been receiving this for a while. This has been going on for about 5 years. So I receive examples like this. So I'm going to copy some examples for you. For example, personal could be health-wise. Say I want to lose 20 pounds 6 months from now. I want to run a 5K race. I want to run triathlon. And then let's say 10, 20 years from now, I want to maintain a certain weight, a waistline, or blood pressure, cholesterol level, or even just be able to run every morning, for example. So one of the things to notice here is that you got to be very, very specific with your goals. Don't just put like, oh, I want to stay healthy. That's not a goal. You got to be very, very specific with your goal. The second thing, for example, is say, when it comes to work, okay, what would that work look like 10, 15 years from now? This really helps you to push you. Let's say, for example, now, I know this LPL business is my training company that I'm setting up. I was like, okay, what 1 year from now, I got to put together a business plan and get some investors on board. I want to have it in multiple locations. So it kind of forces you to dream, to think, to put some concrete ideas instead of just having this pie in the sky ideas of what I want to achieve. Community, same thing. What want to do at community level? Maybe I want to run productive Muslim programs in schools, develop curriculum for Sunday schools, have a teacher training program. And let's say I didn't have it 10, 20 years from now. Okay, maybe sometimes, 5 years is pretty good enough for me. So what I want you to is think about this as a template, as a way for you to just explore yourself. What can you aim for? What can you achieve? What can you push yourself towards and say, this is what I want to achieve. This is what will drive me. This is what will make me excited for the next 10, 15 years from now. Instead of saying, I'm not sure, I'll just see how things go, right? So this template will force you. So maybe you might not be sure what one of the categories, maybe you're not sure about the family one yet, or you're not sure about the community one yet, but it really forces you at least to say, okay, what about the other ones that I think I have a goal? What would I like to be? And feel free that this should not be set in stone. This is something is exercise you always do, always improve, always think, okay, maybe after 1 year, think actually that goal I set 1 year ago, it needs changing, it needs updating. That's fine. There's no right or wrong answers here. As long as connect to your purpose, and then you have some kind of vision for it, and you drive yourself towards it. That's what matters, inshallah ta'ala. So we're gonna wrap up now. I don't want to keep you guys for too long, and then jump to the Q&A, inshallah ta'ala, very soon. So this is the Ultimate Goal Planner. So your homework basically is to complete the Ultimate Goal Planner at home. Again, this is something you might take the weekend to do, but it's something just to take away and just play around with it. I want you just to experiment. You might be skeptical. You might think, nice ideas or why should I do it? Just try it, and then see how this really puts a light bulb. Oh my God, I could do this and I could do that. And it's really exciting because then you look forward for the next 5, 15, 20 years from now, because you know exactly, inshallah ta'ala, what you will be working towards. Now, so this is how you set up your goals: purpose, vision, roles, values, and then you use Ultimate Goal Planner. You can use any other tool if you want to set up your goals. So then the last question is, what goals should you set, right? What goals should you set? Now here, just to keep it, set a criteria. So this goal should be very, very specific as much as possible. Now, like I said, sometimes you might not be specific, but try add some numbers. Say, I want to have a business in X locations. I want to achieve $100,000 in revenue in the first year, for example. I want to give a donation of $10,000 in cumulative in 5 years, for example. Make it specific, make it measurable, make it something you can take action on and relevant to what you want to achieve in your purpose. And finally, make sure it's time bound. Let's say within 5 years. That's why we have this 5 years, 20 years, 15 years sort of time, because it makes it time bound. It's not like, oh, I want to get healthy sometime, so I want to lose 20 pounds, in 6 months. And it's relevant because right now I'm basically overweight, for example, and to work on towards that. So this is when you ask yourself, what goals should I set for myself? Think just SMART goals. I want to put SMART goals for myself, and that helps you achieve that. So now you have goals. The question is, what next? Again, hopefully after you do this exercise, you've busted those excuses for not having life goals. You've sat down, you've worked on your vision, you've worked on your roles, you've worked on your values, you've thought about your 5, 10, 15, 20 years from 10 years goals from now. Now what? How do you translate those goals into actions? How do you translate the goals into, specific things you do? This is what this course, this program is set by Islamic Society, West Valley, was set up for you. This whole new program, mashallah. I looked at the program, and mashallah, really they put together a program that helps you put all these pieces together so that those goals become actionable. This is just a starting point. This is for you to start thinking big, thinking ahead, thinking, what will I work towards? But I highly recommend that you do follow this program. It's a very unique program. Mashallah, I was very, very impressed by, just the content and the ideas and the structure of it all. So I highly recommend that you guys do come along to all the other bits of the program so that you really make it becomes a new you. Really improve yourself, change yourself. If you don't set these goals, if you don't put these goals for yourself, and then you don't follow through with some of the actions, some of the ideas, whether it's health-wise or spiritual, whether it's improvement, whether it's in your marriage or your children, then you'll never see this come together, and it'll just be, again, theory that you talk about. So I really hope that you guys would follow through this program. I hope that you found this beneficial. If there's nothing else you got from this program, my plea and my hope is that I don't want you to lead a meaningless and unfulfilling and a goal-less life. I want you to really think, okay, what am I going? I want you to lead a life of more. There's direction, there is purpose, you feel like you're moving towards somewhere, and you live this life, for the sake of the akhirah, but for sincerely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what, it becomes exciting to be Muslim, becomes exciting to grow, to experience new things, and to achieve things, inshallah ta'ala. So I hope you found this beneficial. I really pray that, inshallah ta'ala, open now for the Q&A. Jazakumullah khair. And open for the Q&A session, question answer, inshallah ta'ala. Any questions?
Mashallah, excellent talk. Always it comes down to the time and money. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given 24 hours for poor and rich. So either you do it or lose it. So many a time it is a very difficult situation to allocate the time.
Very, very good question. Very, very good question. So it's very easy to set all these goals, but then you think, okay, when will I actually do these goals, right? When will I sit down and actually do these goals? One thing I recommend to do, and is that, just as a starting point, if you're really new to this and you really want to sort of change something in your life, let's say there's one specific goal that you really want to achieve. I would say dedicate between 25 minutes and 45 minutes every day, if possible, or even once a week, if possible, towards that specific goal. Because let's say you add a new goal to your life, which is memorize Quran. You really don't memorize Quran. That's you're really passionate about it. So, okay, dedicate just 25 minutes. Create a window of time. I'm sure we can cut down some TV, some Facebook, some WhatsApping. We can find 25 minutes. Ideally, first thing in the morning. So that becomes an important thing we achieve first thing in the morning. And we just work towards the 25 minutes. That's it. Once you get the 25 minutes done, you're done. You're not going to touch that goal again. Next day, another 25 minutes. Third day, another 25 minutes. Keep doing this consistently over time. 1 year's time, you're surprised how much you memorize, surprised how much you go. This is how I started Productive Muslim. Productive Muslim started as a blog where I used to just for half an hour in the morning. I used to have a corporate job. I used to work, had 2 jobs at a time. And I was doing other things. But say in the morning for half an hour, I'll just work towards this article. I'll work towards this goal. I'll share this on Facebook. And slowly but surely over a 7-year period, that's how the platform grew and became my full-time basically work right now. But it's just by creating that window and working towards it bit by bit, bit by bit, bit by bit, until you crack through and you make that goal happen. So I want you to don't overwhelm yourself. I know that I think, oh my God, I have so many goals. Focus on 1 or 2 goals for now. Say, what would I do? How can I create a window of time? And just do that for 25 minutes. That's it. I'm not going to ask myself to spend a whole weekend doing it. 25 minutes. That's all I'm asking. And then next day, 25 minutes. Third day, 25 minutes. And keep pushing at it. and then until inshallah ta'ala it cracks through and you actually achieve the goal. So I hope this will be a starting point, of course, where you can come close together, inshallah. I hope that was useful. Any other question? There's a question in the back, please. There's a question, ladies. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That was a really nice talk and gave us a lot of things to think about. I have a question. My personal goal, I was, when you asked us to do the exercise, and obviously, like everybody else, I said, okay, lose weight, and how am I going to maintain it, and all of that. But the question I have for you is, how is that helping me in my akhirah? By losing 20, 30 pounds, how is that helping me in my akhirah?
Wonderful, wonderful question. Great question. This is something very, very important. You know, it's really sad that as an ummah, we have neglected certain aspects of our physical well-being. A lot of time we think about health and exercise, or diet and exercise, as something to do with our bodies and looking good. That's what we think about. It's about looking good and feeling good, and that's it. But now there's been countless studies that show that actually having a healthy lifestyle and having and exercising is actually better for your brain more than your body. So it's not about, you know, losing weight and looking good and feeling good, but it's actually for your brain. Now think about it. If you're going to power your brain, how will you use your brain towards achieving, you know, great goals in life? Now think about it from another perspective. If you are eating, you know, sleep, you know, if you're healthy, meaning that, let's say you lose weight and you're feeling healthier, you find it easier to wake up for tahajjud. You find it easier to walk towards the masjid. You find it easier to fast more, perhaps. You find it easier, inshallah, to do hajj, for example. So just by just taking care of your health, you're actually enabling yourself to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better. That's the first thing. And secondly, you're powering your brain so that you can achieve much more things. Have you ever noticed how the top CEOs of companies, they're super healthy? They go jogging, they go running, and these guys run multi-million-dollar companies. Why? It's not because they want to look good. It's because they realize if they want to operate at a peak performance level, they have to. It's not like it's an option. They have to run. They have to exercise so they can operate, so they can manage everything else. As a Muslim ummah, why can't we move up in our health so that we can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better, so first and foremost, but also so we can truly contribute and truly achieve things. But if we we don't take care of our health, then we fall sick more often, then we feel tired more often, then we think we're stressed more often, then we just, oh man, this goal setting is too much for us. So I really hope that we really think about our health not as this is to look good or to feel good, but it's actually to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better and to be able to develop and give ourselves better. And I leave you with the hadith of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It says, "Al-mu'min al-qawi khayrun wa ahabbu ila Allah min al-mu'min al-da'if." That the strong believer is better and more beloved to Allah than the weak believer. Or fi kullin khayr. Both are good. Perhaps both are good. But there is better the ones who's strong believer and is strong physically, strong mentally, strong emotionally, strong spiritually. So it's on different levels. So you really think, okay, this is one aspect we can master. Why not go for it, inshallah ta'ala, so we can move up in our goals, inshallah. Any other question?
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam kat.
For your interesting webinars, very fascinating. So I'm currently going through a coaching program, which is very similar just for professional purposes as an academic. And one of the pieces of advice the coach gave me was that, so it's 5 years, I have 5 years until I receive tenure, inshallah. And she mentioned that I have to make specific goals, but some of them I have to put aside until I receive and gain tenure, because basically I have to survive until tenure. And so, for example, some of the goals I have, she mentioned I should put aside, for example, social justice or getting more involved in the community, just because I don't have time to do all that and manage a household and a child and work. So I wonder, how do you know if you're making the right choice about choosing which goals you need to pursue, which ones you should put aside? Because in Islam, we could die in minutes, so we really should be living in the moment. But what if sometimes it's impossible to do everything, and you want to do everything? You want to have social justice and saving the world kind of goals, but it's not actually possible. Or is it possible if you manage
Very, very good question. So, that comes back to that, again, the pyramid we spoke about. So once you know what experience you want to get out of life, the growth you want to get out of life, and how you want to contribute, what's your specific goal? You might say, okay, social justice. Exactly how. I was coaching a lady from Canada who said, I want to get involved in minority rights, and specifically I want to focus in this particular area and become a leader of a civil liberties group, for example. Fine, that's your specific focus on that. So it's not, sometimes we set goals, like, okay, I want to, for example, I want to help all the orphans, for example. I want to help orphans. Okay, where exactly? How? What sort of, are you going to build this? So once you get most, that's why it gets be very, very specific, then it becomes more manageable. Though if you put a huge goal for yourself, or you put multiple goals for yourself, you would lose track and you think this is overwhelming for you. So be very, very specific and have what I call the big why. The big why is what is really driving you. What's the thing that you wake up every morning and says, this is why I'm here. This is why I want to focus my energy on or in. Is it so, it's specific, because I'm here to solve the issue of, for example, the orphanages from this particular area who have this specific conditions, for example. That is your big why. That is what's driving you. Somebody else would be, my specific big why is that, for example, I know I spoke to a lady from Malaysia, for example, I was coaching her. She was like, her big why was that she was tired of, she's actually a diver, professional diver, and she was tired of seeing a lot of, garbage in the coral reefs, which are killing the coral reefs. So she said her big why is to make sure that no one throws anything there and the coral environment gets clean. That's her big why. That's driving her. That she feels she's worshiping a lot doing that. So what is your big why? And just get really, really good at it. Don't distract yourself saying, I want to do A, B, C, D. What is your big why? And that's why I said that once you have one specific focus, it becomes easy to balance across your roles. But if you have multiple organizations, you're involved in the masjid, you're involved in the community, you're involved in, the barbecue downstairs, whatever it is, it becomes multiple things, then it becomes hard for you to manage. But once you know, this will help you say no to things. You might say, actually, I'm going to focus on this, and I'm not going to focus on this and that and the other. And this is, again, a lot of times I get offers, Muhammad, please join this, join my nonprofit or join this. I say no, because I know exactly what I want to focus on. So once you know what you want to focus on, you can say no to everything else. And this is how you become really, really good at what you are basically, work, all of you being created, all of you will be made easy what you've been created for. That will drive you, inshallah ta'ala. I hope I answered the question. That's the question? Okay, if you wanna.
Thank you, that was really interesting, useful. Just to follow up, so for example, my goal was interfaith relationships.
Yeah.
But I feel really guilty of what's happening in Burma and Syria, etc. But I can't really do much as an individual, and I don't have a lot of money to donate. I can't go to Burma or Syria. So how do you not feel guilty? I mean, we're always going to feel guilty. We have to bear the burden of all of the terrible things happening around the world, but I engage in interfaith relations in LA, but then what about all the people who are starving and different places and being killed and tormented? So how do you deal with that?
Wonderful question. Wonderful question. So once I was in Nigeria this year. I went to Nigeria to a workshop, a Muslim workshop in Nigeria. And I was in a masjid. I gave a public talk about being productive and being productive and starting with the issues, in Nigeria, and especially in Abuja, the capital city. And I was like, how, as Muslims, we should take the lead on solving some of the issues inside Abuja in Nigeria. There was a lot of issues at that time. And one person stood up and said, how could you say about this? And brothers and sisters are dying in Yemen and in Syria and he went around the world, mentioning all the places where there are problems. And I said, okay, there are two things. There's a circle of influence and a circle of concern. Stephen Covey says this in his famous book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. There's a circle you're concerned about. Yes, all of us are concerned, and we care about what's happening in Syria and Yemen and other parts where our brothers and sisters are hurting and living desperate times. That's our circle of concern. But then there's a circle of influence. This is where we actually can influence. We can actually do change. Right now, your role in LA, in your specific project, you are making a difference. So that's your circle of influence. And if you focus on that circle of influence, that circle of influence will hopefully grow to even encompass sometimes circle of concern. Let me give a practical example. And I know this happens seriously. One person, when I was doing a workshop in Malaysia, stood up and told me the story. He said, I was, we were concerned about, my parents have this halaqah, small halaqah, family halaqah, that we have weekly visitors who come and tell us what's happening, give us the lecture. One day my dad found a guy from Cambodia, and we asked him to come over and tell us about the Muslims in Cambodia. And Malaysia and Cambodia are very close to each other. So the guy came and he told him about how difficult the situation is in Cambodia, and that the Muslims are oppressed there, and that they need medical help, right? So circle of influence. Okay, what can we do? How can we change? So they all traveled, mom, dad, and son and daughter. They went to Cambodia, and they saw the situation, and they actually said, okay, we'll help a bit. After a while, they focused on it so well that now they start a whole NGO called Hospital Without Borders. You can actually check it online, Hospital Without Borders. Basically, a whole hospital. They bought an entire hospital in Cambodia supporting the Muslims. So it started a circle of influence. What can we as a family do? Became a whole, encompassed a circle of concern. And this is why sometimes, you focus your circle of influence. What can I do? Who can I influence? My family, my neighbors, my children, my community members, my society. These are people I can influence. And then hopefully, you can perhaps, for example, let's say you work with an interfaith group and you work so hard with them and they really admire and they want to work with you. And let's say in Ramadan, you say, hey, I want to do a charity drive for Syria, for example, or for Burma. These interfaith groups perhaps will join you and say, you know what, we will support you because we know you and we appreciate the work you do. And suddenly, what seemed like a circle of concern, you're also contributing towards it. So always think, okay, yes, we have a circle of concern. We have a lot of things to worry about and to think about and to care about, but let's not be overwhelmed by that. Let's focus on our circle of influence. That's what will be, that's where we can make changes. And then hopefully if you focus enough on our circle of influence and do really good work, that it will spread. It will actually help us cover the circle of concern. Another example I'll give you also in Nigeria was a young man, he came up to me and says, I was same thing, I was passionate about what's happening around the world. But then a teacher told me, hey, is everyone in your village, for example, fed well? It's like, no. Is everyone in your village clothed? It's like, no. Is everyone in your village know how to pray and how to read Quran and how to pray Salah? It's like, no. It's like, go back and feed your people, clothe them, and educate them. That's how you start before you think about everything else happening around you. And inshallah, mashallah, now he has the biggest network of Islamic schools in Nigeria. This man, he started 20 years ago with this one thought: I gotta focus on my circle of influence. So I hope that clarifies. Jazakumullah khair. Any other question? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for the talk. It was a really good talk. Just one question I want to make clear. Usually when I go to school, I notice that when people focus on future notice, everybody's just like thinking about they want to win the lottery or they want to get a lot of money. They want to get a really good girl. They want to do a lot of things that they know that other people in other countries can do.
Yep.
So, and then when I come here, I notice that everybody, what they want to do is that they want to, like you said, memorize the Quran or pray normally and everything. So one question I want to ask is, what do you think that Allah expects from everybody?
Okay, wow, that's a big question. Okay, I'll try to answer that question. So first, it's a great question because, again, living in a society that is very dunya oriented, that says, okay, focus on success in this life, have a lottery, get all these achievements, build $1 billion, build the next Facebook, for example, or have that, buy a Tesla car, or, have all, and these are, very, very, very exciting stuff. And then, of course, the masjid, and think, okay, memorize Quran, and you have to go to Hajj. And for young people, there's something, man, it's like not as exciting as, as having a Tesla car right next to me right now. So the key thing is to remember in Islam, there's no, contradiction. There's no fight between the two, right? It's not about either or, but what you think is your dunya for your akhirah. How do I say this? For example, a lot of people, when Allah talks in the Quran about haya ad-dunya, right? People think that, dunya is bad, dunya is bad, dunya is bad. And every time in the Quran, you think that if you misunderstand and we say, oh, Allah puts down the dunya. But if you notice what Allah actually is putting down, it's saying hayatud dunya. the comforts of this world. أَرَضِيتُمْ بِالْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا مِنَ الْآخِرَةِ. Are you willing, are you happy with the comforts of this world instead of the akhirah? So Allah is not saying dunya is bad, because then in other verse He says, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً. Allah give us the goodness, good in this life and the good in hereafter. So there's nothing wrong getting the good in this life, but it's for what purpose? If you're saying, I want to get that Tesla, I want to get the $1 billion for the sake of the $1 billion and the sake of the Tesla, then that's the comforts of this world. But if you're saying, no, I want to get the Tesla and I want to get the $1 billion, and guess what? I'm going to drive that Tesla to every single masjid in town. I'm going to donate $1 million, all of them. Now your dunya is for your akhirah. So you want to think about when you seek have these goals for your life, get a great career, become the best person, get ahead in life. I'm not saying you shouldn't say I'm going to hide and do nothing, but for what purpose? Don't let that be the end itself. Don't say, okay, I'm going to become a CEO and that's the end itself, or I'm going to start the next Facebook and that's the end itself. It's the for what purpose. And then again, use the fast forward technique. Let's say, assume you got the $1 billion. Assume you got the Tesla. Assume you got everything you imagined, dreamed of having. Then what? Okay, then I'll go to Hajj. Okay, then what? Then I will come back and buy a big house. Then what? Then I will have some parties. Then what? Then, then it comes to a point like, then we'll drop dead. Then what? Then we're going to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then what? And suddenly clicks. Like, oh, okay, now I understand. So there's nothing wrong with seeking dunya for the sake of akhirah, but that's the danger, because sometimes it's so tempting. That's why a lot of the imams and scholars, they tell us to warn us against dunya, because it's very lucrative. You must say, yeah, I want to get $1 billion, and when I get $1 billion, I'm going to donate all of it for charity. It is very hard, because shaitan will be playing with your head. So sometimes they discourage us from dunya, not because dunya itself is bad, but because we can get very, very distracted. So you always have to keep the akhirah in mind. That's why the ultimate goal planner, you have the akhirah in mind. You can be the best person, most successful person, have the most awesome house, awesome car, awesome, bank account in the world. But just remember, what's the end purpose? What's the goal beyond just this life? And that will help you click, inshallah ta'ala. I hope that answers the question. I can't see you, by the way. The camera is not moving, but I hope that answers your question, inshallah. Okay. Any other question?
I learned from somebody on the Facebook that this is Amir Khan, the Indian actor. He went to school and he was telling when the parents pick up the kid from school to the college, this is what they ask. Oh, what did you learn? Did you get A? Did you do good in this and that? But he was telling the parents should ask, what did you do to help somebody today? What did you do good, for the akhirah, instead of just asking about the grades? And then he said, the person, the child, becomes selfish. Oh, I have to be first. I have to do this to get good grade. I have to do good to get a good job. So when they become teenagers or 2 20 years, they become selfish. So we have to teach our kids to help more. Of course, the grades are important, but ask them to do something in the community.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khair, very, very important. This comes back to the values idea, that the values have to be aligned. So when you have these goals, make sure they're connected to the values. Alhamdulillah, our deen has beautiful values. And even if you're successful in your business, there's something like rahmah, mercy, justice. These are values that drive you, should drive your character as a Muslim, in success as well. So even in school, even in universities, what are those values? And like the sister mentioned about, asking, the parents have a huge role in helping the kids define their goals. Like right now, I'm sure all of you parents have heard the question from the young man about, well, I have these goals which are super awesome, and then I have these akhirah goals. How can I balance? This is a conversation that I hope that as parents also have with your kids. What are your goals? What would you like to achieve? And just guide them. Again, you can't control them, but guide them. Say, okay, these are the values that we have. How can your goal become more connected to the akhirah, for example? How can we help, for example? What can we help you with? And this is where you have the conversation. That's why the family role, when you have the family goals, it's a great conversation breaker between you and your parents, or your parents and your kids, to start thinking, okay, what is the goal? What would you like to achieve? How would you like to, how would you want to achieve this? So, and how is that connected to your akhirah? Because that's in the end what, as parents, we're responsible for. Do we hopefully pray for our success of our kids in dunya and in akhirah? So having that conversation. So I love those questions. What good did you do to help, or who did you help today? Those are great questions to start keeping the kids, thinking about the values when it comes to their goals. Jazakallah khair for sharing that. Barakallah feekum. Mm-hmm.
So this is like, I guess, people here, but we live in a world where, like, some people's goals are just to get likes on Instagram or YouTube and stuff like that. But we're talking about bigger things here, obviously, and I don't know if all the kids necessarily follow that, but how do you, like, let's say they do set a goal for themselves, what kind of suggestions or tips do you have for them to stay focused and stay in line with those goals? They might have these great ideas, but then they have all these distractions out there.
Okay, so just again, reword your question, because I'm not sure if I heard you properly. So you're saying, how can people stay focused on their goals, on their long-term goals? Is that the question? Just double check.
Yeah, so the youth nowadays, they have a lot of like distractions out there.
Okay.
Yeah, so how do you stay focused so those distractions aren't,
Very powerful. Okay, so this is the how can I put it? It's like it's a development thing. So as especially the youth, when they grow, when they get through the teenagehood, and for me, I don't like the word teenager, because I think they're adults by now. So once they hit puberty, they are adults. So as in Islam, they start getting accounted for. So it's more like, it's not about it's teenagehood being an excuse these days of just to make any mistakes and do whatever you want. But it's saying, if you're adults now, is having those conversations. Say, okay, what would you like to achieve? Now, of course, try not to overwhelm people, overwhelm the young, but also asking them how, what would you like to achieve, and how would you like to stay focused on goals? So one way, like I mentioned, is don't overwhelm them. Sometimes you do get good grades in school and memorize Quran and achieve, example, be a volunteer here and be a volunteer there and play soccer well and play basketball well. Again, sometimes parents have a role here to say, how can I make sure that my son or daughter is able to just focus on specific goals? Secondly, the adults, the young adults themselves, I will say, use the fast forward technique. You might see distracted. You might be saying, okay, I'm playing video games now, right? I'm nothing that you can play video games. I'm not gonna say don't play video games, but let's say you play video games for like 5 hours every night, okay, or 3 hours every night, or 2 hours every night. Let's say, okay, if I were to do this continuously, how will this impact my future? Again, I'm not saying don't play video games, but just say, okay, if I'm gonna waste 2 hours every day, or 5 hours or 3 hours, and just add up those hours, man, I spent like 500 hours playing video games. Wow, that's not the most productive hours of my life. But let's say I play an hour and a half, but then the half an hour I spend on something a bit more important, a bit more productive, something that's beneficial, whether it's, hey, listen to a TED Talk, or reading something that's interesting that I find interesting, or working on my new code, new app, or starting my little business on the side, something that I wanted to start on my side. And I work on that instead, and then build those hours up. So just putting that fast forward technique helps them stay focused, because if they don't realize the impact of the day-to-day actions, you never think about what's coming ahead. But once you think, okay, if I add up all these distractions, if I add up all these hours spending on YouTube, all these hours spending on Facebook, all these hours spending on Snapchat, and then actually when they add them all up, I'm actually wasting a lot of time. But if I can say, okay, how can I maybe cut some here, and then dedicate, like I said, 25 minutes. Sometimes all you need is 25 minutes to focus on a specific goal. And hey, the rest of the day you're off. You can do whatever you want. But the 25 minutes, focus on something you really want. That's very important for you. That's important for you. Again, it doesn't have to be something religious. It could be anything. It could be a project. It could be starting an NGO. It could be starting a youth club. Whatever it is that excites you, that you want to achieve, that's beneficial, that's linked to your akhirah. Brilliant. It doesn't have to be religious. It can be anything that's beneficial to humanity, to mankind, to society. 25 minutes. That's all I'm asking you. Beyond that, you're cool. And then hopefully you'll find that it's so much fun to do things that are more long-term than these short-term distractions. One thing as well, in that 25 minutes, phones off, video games off, everything off. You just focus for 25 minutes. This is something called a Pomodoro technique, which is a technique where you set a time of 25 minutes and you focus on a single task without getting distracted. It's a great, great tool for overcoming procrastination. If you ever are procrastinating, guys, in terms of your work or school or report, I always use a Pomodoro technique. It's like 25 minutes. I focus on a single task without getting distracted. Focus on those important tasks, and that will say, oh, I'm making progress. And there's been studies that have shown that one of the most powerful drivers to achieving goals is two things. Number one, setting specific deadlines and timers. And number two, seeing progress. The moment you see, wow, I've never realized I could make this much progress, you're like, whoa, okay, you know what? I'm going to put more time into this. If you don't see progress, if you keep trying and trying, you don't see progress, you'll give up on that goal and you'll fall for distraction. I hope that answers your question. Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to give you one more question, Penny.
Please go ahead.
Anyone? The last person.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
I think that's pretty much brothers. I know everything is fine. That's the excuse that we have. Inshallah, everything will be fine. If you set up a goal and work on it. And inshallah, I think I like your answer for the sister asked about overweight. And fit and do the masjid and keep you fit, and it's leading to the akhirah. Amazing, amazing brother. Thanks for all your knowledge, and mashallah, and we'll catch up with you some other time. And thanks for your time, and behalf of Islamic Center, Islamic Society of West Valley, we will definitely want to thank you, and thanks for your time again. And
no problem.
And everyone will give a salam to him. Thanks, brother. Thanks, God.
Sure. Jazakallah khair, and stay in touch, inshallah ta'ala. Barakallah feekum. Shukran. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Wa alaikum salam.